Hello and welcome to another MBL Timeout podcast with your host, Serp. It is November 5th, 2020. We are just rolling into week 8. I think we've only had maybe 1 or 2 games possibly that have been played since the beginning of week 8. So we're kind of right at mid-season here and a good time for another podcast to kind of see where we're at, which teams are, of course, we'll go over the standings. As always, some of the statistical leaders, get that out of my mouth. And then also, again, I've started each podcast looking at a trade. And this week this podcast, I'm going to be looking at the trade between the Dolphins and the Broncos, where the Dolphins sent 2 first-round draft picks, possibly the 2nd and the 27th overall picks. For the outside linebacker Von Miller and wide receiver Kai Hamler. So I'll be taking a look at that trade. And then also I always do a spotlight player who's kind of excelling and stands out of the pack in the position that they play in, which will be Ezekiel Elliott, which I think is long overdue since I could have picked him, many podcasts ago. With the way that he's been playing through the cycle, actually, these first 2 seasons, really. So I'm going to be going through the standings first of all, of course. And let's see here who we have. We'll start out with the AFC. We got the Buffalo Bills with Cougs sitting at 6-1. Then we also have the Miami Dolphins at 4-2. That would be Miller Thriller. And then the Patriots with DB at 4-3, so they're somewhat. Dolphins are a game back, but I mean it's still kind of a pretty close division there. I mean the Bills got it. I'm pretty confident I could say that the Bills are going to take the AFC East. There's me, and then also of course there's me, the New York Jets, 1-6. We don't even need to mention myself anymore here. I'm not in contention for anything except for possibly the first overall pick of the draft, which sounds good to me. So Buffalo Bills are going to probably take that, but the Dolphins and the Patriots are putting up a fight. I mean, we're only at week 8. We're halfway through. We'll see what happens. AFC West, we got the Kansas City Chiefs with OSU. We've got at 2-4 the Las Vegas Raiders, which is Bob at 2-4. The Chargers, which is N-Train at 2-5, and the Broncos Taut at 1-6. So that division's not doing too well over there. And it's anybody's. It still makes it interesting though because it's anybody's division over there. I mean, 2-4, 2-4, 2-5, 1-6. So anybody who wants that can go ahead and have it. So I mean, it pretty much is up to whoever does better on the back half of this season. AFC North, we got Pittsburgh Steelers. That is Brad at 5-1. We got the Baltimore Ravens at October 5-2. Good job, bro. I mean, that's one of my division mates from last cycle. Doing a lot better with these Ravens, even after trading Lamar Jackson. So Jackson Smackson, doesn't really matter. Baltimore Ravens 5-2. Cleveland Browns 4-3, and that is JB. And then the Cincinnati Bengals at 3-3, which is fat. So still not not too far apart. The division's pretty close too. I mean, all of them so far. Could be possibly taken by somebody who hasn't last year, or that may not be sitting on top of the division at the current time. So, AFC South, we've got the Tennessee Titans, which would be Spongy on top at 4-4. The Colts, which is Nemo at 3-3. Jacksonville Jaguars, which is Eric G. We just had a good game at 3-4, and Houston Texans at Flair at 2-4. So again, same thing with the AFC South. I mean, it's anybody's division. So even if you're on the bottom there, don't count yourself out. I mean, you have a better back half of the season. I don't know what each of these individual schedules look like. I mean, if we wanted to go a little further into that, we could look at the schedules and kind of determine who do we think is going to take it. But at this point, just generally speaking, it's anybody's divisions. I mean, I still think that it's going to be the Buffalo Bills, probably the Kansas City Chiefs. I would have to say probably, I still think the Browns, even though they're at 4-3 right now, as opposed to the Steelers being on top at 5-1, are going to come around and do something about that. and maybe end up taking it again. The Colts, I think, will still take the South, but I mean, who knows? So heading over to the NFC land, we got the NFC East with the Philadelphia Eagles. That is Gov at 6-1. The Washington football team, who just received quarterback Lamar Jackson not too long ago via trade, is 6-1, and that is bananas. We got the Cowboys at 5-2. We're going to be talking about their halfback Ezekiel Elliott during the spotlight section at 5-2. That's Lip, and the New York Giants Z-Star at 3-4. So, with Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know. I said that I think the Washington football team is probably going to take it now because of Lamar Jackson. But, I mean, God, with the Eagles being on top like that and the Cowboys, they were almost thought of as not being the ones that were going to take it last season. And in the back half of the season, they just went nuts. So we'll see if we're going to be looking at that again this season or if we're going to have a new NFC East champ in possibly the Washington football team or the Eagles. So NFC West, Motor, the robot is always 6-0. There's no even use talking about him. He's Seattle Seahawks. Cardinals, Bomber, 5-2. They're getting it together over there. Los Angeles Rams, that is, who is the Rams? Beatdown. That's Beatdown at 4-2. And the San Francisco 49ers, T-Jacks at 1-6. So it's still anybody's division over there. Obviously, I think Motor is going to take it, but, the Cardinals are definitely going to take one of those wild cards, so that you'll see both of them in the playoffs. The Rams, you don't know. They're not out of it. 4-2. Again, it all depends on the back half of this season. So that's the NFC West. NFC North, we got the Chicago Bears, which is Game Master at 5-1. The Vikings, which is Porter at 3-3. And then we hit the Lions with Gibbs at 1-6, and the Packers with Reese at 1-6. So it looks like Bears and Vikings. Possibly, probably Bears again, and Game Master took it last season as well as it looks like he's going to take it this season. NFC South, we've got the Carolina Panthers with Draco at 5-2. That defense is ridiculous. Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Jamie at 3-4. I'm sorry, the Panthers were 5-2. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jamie is 3-4. Atlanta Falcons. Under Oath at 1-5, and the New Orleans Saints with Captain Planet at 0-6. So it looks like the Carolina Panthers are going to be, Under Oath took that division last season, and now is sitting at 1-5 halfway through season 50. Wow. So it looks like this could possibly be Draco's time to take it over and possibly with that defense hold it for quite some time. So that is the NFC. So according to me so far, we're going to have the Bills, the Chiefs, the Browns, the Colts, and these are all division or teams that I expect to take the divisions. And then the Cowboys I'm still going to go with, Seahawks, Bears, and Panthers. So that is the standings so far through week 8. Some of the statistical leaders, I don't know what's going on with that word with me today. I think we're going to have to, stat leaders. Let's say stat leaders. How about that? Stat leaders. That's good. Josh Allen, insanity. This guy's going nuts. I mean, if you're not just listening but also viewing, and you can see Josh Allen's 110 completions for 160 yards, which is 20 some completions less than the next person, but more yards and 27 touchdowns. So his passing is just, it's crazy. Josh Allen is going to be one of the leading quarterbacks in the MBL for the rest of the cycle, guaranteed. 2,156 yards, 27 touchdowns, halfway through the season. So he's on pace for over 50 touchdowns. That's crazy. Then you got Jordan Love at just barely underneath 2,000 yards with 13 touchdowns. Kyler Murray's creeping up there around 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns. Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson. And then we got rushing Ezekiel Elliott, 1,160 yards at week 8, averaging 10.1. He's averaging a first down every time he handles the ball. I mean, what are you going to do against that? I would think I couldn't imagine why they are not have a better record than they do now. What were they, 5-2? I'm surprised they're not 6-1 or 7-0 with that rushing. But I guess you do have to pass sometimes. Saquon Barkley, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. Miles Sanders, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. We got Kareem Hunt and Darius Geis. Receiving, Keenan Allen, of course, that is Josh Allen's buddy. So he's catching most of those receptions, 872 yards and 10 touchdowns for him. 34 receptions. Christian Kirk for the Cardinals is just below him. Actually, more receptions, but only 822 yards and 8 touchdowns. Jalen Reagor, John Ross, and TJ McCollum to follow. Defensive leaders, Jelani Tavai, 36 tackles. Wow, he's everywhere. Noah Dawkins, 32 tackles. Drew Tranquil, 31 tackles, 1 sack, a forced fumble, and an interception. Rashawn Evans and Shaq Thompson. And in sack leaders, we got Brian Burns with 8 sacks, 11 tackles, and a forced fumble. We got Myles Garrett. Of course, he's going to be up there. 7 sacks, 10 tackles, forced fumble. Yetur Gross-Matos, 6 sacks, 11 tackles. And then we got Yannick Ngokwe and Josh Sweat below that. Interceptions, we got Micah Hyde with 6 and 11 tackles. Marlon Humphrey with 5 and 15 tackles. Tre'Davious White, 5 with 13 tackles. Landon Collins, 5 and 25 tackles. That's a lot of tackles for that secondary there. And then A.J. Bouye on the bottom there. So going into the trade that we wanted to be talking about. So the Dolphins send their 2 first rounds. They had this number 2 overall pick, it looks like, and the number 27 overall pick. And they sent it to the Broncos. And the Broncos sent them Von Miller and Kai Hamler. So we're going to switch over here, and we're going to take a look at what they've been doing. Okay, so statistically speaking, what have they done? Let's start with Von Miller. So Von Miller, let's look at never mind his stats. Don't look at those. Von Miller for the Dolphins. I'm not happy he's there. It's in the AFC East with me, and I don't like it, but it's all good. So defensively, Von Miller, that's blocking, defense. So what do we got here? Let's bring up sacks. So sacks. So what did they gain? Okay, so they gained 4 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, not bad. 4 sacks. I consider solo tackles. So we'll say 10 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 2 catches allowed. We're not really going to pay too much attention to that stat. And he's been in on 266 downs. So, they're getting production from him. That's for sure. He's leading the team in sacks. But, is that worth what was given up for him? I guess we have to see kind of what Kai Hamler has done as well, because that's part of the package. But let's go over to, really quickly, the Broncos, and let's see what they're doing as far as sacks, tackles for loss, etc., for their number 1 person, because that's where Von Miller would most likely have been. So if we sort it again by sacks, see, we've got Trayvon Carr up there. The rookie has got 3.5 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 11 solo tackles, a forced fumble. So, to tell you the truth, losing Von Miller for the Broncos has really done nothing. Now, the Broncos, again, aren't doing very well as far as statistics go, as the standings go. They're 1-6. But, I don't really think that plays a part in it. I think that's more, other circumstances, maybe offense or offensive line, passing, whatever it may be. But it definitely isn't. It definitely wasn't Von Miller that was hurting them on a defense, because as we've shown here, Trayvon Carr and even and they've got Bradley Chubb as well. Trayvon Carr, and it's a rookie, so you got to get him in there. You got to get him playing. You got to get him in there. Why would you want to keep around a how old is Von Miller? So Von Miller has been in the league 10 years. He is 32 years old, superstar X Factor, 95 overall. So he's going to be good. There's no question about it. He's going to be able to play till he retires. Look at his stats here. We're talking 93 tackle, 89 hit power, 87 speed, 97 pursuit, 88 power moves, 90 finesse moves. And he's got every single trait there is to go with it. Injury 99, so you really ain't got to worry about that. He's even got a 61 zone coverage if that would ever need to come into play for any reason. Not that really would. It's just, he's most likely just a rusher. And what does he have for abilities? So he's got Fearmonger. He's got Edge Threat, which is amazing, and Adrenaline Rush. So definitely a good player, but when it comes down to it, what you're really going to assess someone by is what they've done for the team, how they've performed. You could have a 99 overall and put him on a team where he doesn't do, jack squat. So Amazing talent and still a great player and going to be until he retires, probably 34 years old is probably when he'll hit the bricks. So they're going to have him for 2 more years. But the Broncos have lost nothing. And the Dolphins have gained, the same statistics as they would have with a rookie, most likely. So, with a good rookie anyway. But it's not really a bad deal for either team. But I think the draft pick would have been worth more just because there's only 2 more seasons left with Von Miller, if that. I mean, he's 32. I think 34. He's going to be. Does an outside linebacker make it to 35 before they retire? I don't know. So let's go and look at the other part of that trade, which was Kai Hamler, who the Broncos gave to the Dolphins. Now that's going to be a bit of a different story because Kai Hamler has been doing great as far as a number 2 receiver for the Dolphins. So they have a rookie at number 1, and they have the one year experience Kai Hamler at number 2. So they're set. I mean, they are absolutely set at the receiver position. I don't know, maybe if they want to get a different slot receiver at some point. I mean, they're going to need one more eventually. But I mean, they're set. They're 2 overall receivers. They're good. I mean, they got Lamont Gray, 645 yards, 9 touchdowns, and averaging 100 and some plus a game. And Kai Hamler at 603, averaging over 100 some plus a game and 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, what does that tell you? It's very hard for a defense when you have 2 very capable, very athletic receivers. Who are you going to spotlight? I mean, who are you going to use? It's very difficult if one's pent up, the other one's wide open. So he's 22 years old. So amazing. He's got star development already. And he's almost going to be an 83 overall. He's got about one more training left before he's 83. 95 speed, 95 excel, 94 agility. I mean, oh my God, 90 change of direction. He's got all the traits. He's got dropped passes. But in my experience, I have a Perryman who has dropped passes on him too, and it doesn't really. I don't see that being a thing. I mean, if you throw it to him when he's open, they catch the ball. I mean, I guess there's a couple times that, I guess you could say maybe it was that may have made him miss one or something, but I don't think that's too big of an issue. His injury's 90, toughness 81. So, I mean, if he gets hurt, he's going to get hurt. But not too bad. 79 release, 75 short running, 78 medium, 87 deep. So he's a deep threat. That's for sure. At 95 speed, 95 excel, you would assume that anyway. A lot of streaks for this guy, a lot of deep posts. Definitely a great. He's definitely a number 1 overall receiver. I mean, he would be taken in the draft, number 1 overall, no question about it. So, who made out on this one? I don't know. I think it's a fair trade. I think for 2 firsts, I mean, the second overall first, I mean, KJ Hamler, look at his statistics. I mean, how tall is this guy? He's 5'9", which it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're running 95 and 95 excel, a 90 change of direction, 94 agility, and you've already got 87 deep route and you're 22 years old with star development already, you're a very early first round draft pick. So, that's a fair trade. And then the other one for Von Miller, the late first for Von Miller, whatever. It looks like most likely what had happened to me, and this is just my thoughts on it. I don't know the exact, how the trade came together, but it looks like maybe the Broncos wanted both firsts for Hamler, and then the Dolphins said, well, okay, I'll give you both first, but just throw in Von Miller too. And that's might have went how that went down. I might be wrong, but I mean, it would seem Kai Hamler is definitely the guy that was wanted out of this deal. So I think that's an even one. I mean, we've had a few where I think it was one-sided. I think most of them actually that I've done so far, somebody has won. But I think this is it's definitely really good for the Dolphins, which sucks for me. But a really good trade for the Dolphins. But the Broncos get 2 firsts, so they can put them, where they need them. I mean, it looks like they already have a replacement for Von Miller, so maybe you see them going for, a wide receiver to take Hamler's place, which wouldn't make much sense. Hopefully, they have some receivers. Who do they have over there anyway? Let's take a little quick look since we're kind of still in this section or in this segment of the podcast. Let's look at who Broncos have at receiving. So they got Rodney Woods. So they've got a decent rookie. And they've got Jerry Jeudy. So yeah, they don't and they got Cortland Sutton. Yeah, they could afford to get rid of one. So, they've got 2 first-round draft picks to shore up any kind of positions where they may be lacking. So, looks good there. So we'll go ahead and say that the trade between the Dolphins and the Broncos was a good trade. It looks pretty even there, and a benefit probably to both. So let's move on now to the player spotlight section of the Cowboys, because this is Ezekiel Elliott is just insane. We're going to go to the rushing. We're going to go to Ezekiel Elliott. We're going to look at that right there, and this is through 7 games only. So they had a bye in there too, or they just haven't played their 8th if they haven't yet. So 7 games, 18 touchdowns. How does that work? I mean, that's 21 touchdowns would be 3 a game. So he's like pretty much the offense. Let's look at passing. Let's look at passing. So Prescott's got 1,600, only 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Prescott does not do bad when he throws. 79% completion, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 128.7 rating. Wow. And that being is because you got to play, they've got Ezekiel Elliott. I think that would change if they ever were to lose him, if you're ever to get injured, because then they would be forced to rely more on the pass than the run. I mean, if you've got a run like that, God, the play action and everything is just 100% set up for you. I mean, 1,160 yards through 7 games. That is 165 plus yards per game and almost 3 touchdowns per game. 18 broken tackles. So it doesn't even matter if you're in the way or not. You're getting taken over. Wow. Yeah, what a beast. 26 years old. So he's good. I mean, he's good all the way. What's his 92 speed, 93 excel, 94 change of direction. And then of course some of these are bolstered a bit just by his morale. So really, 92 speed, 93 excel, 92 change of direction, 93 carrying, 97 agility, for all hits cover ball. Injury 99, toughness 98. So he's not going, you could put this guy in every play. It doesn't matter what his stamina is or what, he's not getting injured, which hence the insane amount of carries he has. And I don't remember the last time he was injured. I don't think he's been injured that I can recall. Somebody could throw a tidbit in the chat to hear or something like that if they are aware of one. But and what has he got? He's got freight train. So, and what do you need to get in the zone for that X factor is to rush for 10 yards. Well, his average is 10.1 per carry or more. So, he's doing that no problem. He's got reach for it, which is a beautiful, especially the way Madden's working right now. If you've got reach for it, you are getting first downs. You are getting that extra yard or two, no doubt about it. He's got leapfrog. I don't know too much about that one. I guess if you like to spam the Jurtle or the Hurdle, that might help out a little bit. But as far as everything goes, freight train, you're going to have freaking unlocked all the time. If he's averaging 10 some yards a carry, he's got it. And then the reach for it is amazing. So long run, what do we say? Well, at 92, he's 26 years old. He's got 27, 28. He's got about 3 years before he's even going to start to regress, which will be our 5th season is where we'd probably be at. So, and then we got 2 more from there. He's playing the whole cycle. He's playing the whole cycle. By the time the cycle ends and Ezekiel Elliott is still playing for the Cowboys, he'll be 90 speed, maybe 89. And maybe they'll have somebody new, at some kind of rookie that they'll be starting maybe in the 5th or 6th season, just because, why not? And they'll just have him as the 3rd down and absolutely probably the power back. And just pounding on people. So, wow, 99 overall. This guy he's going for the rest of the time. 228 pounds, 5 years in the league, from Ohio State, 6 foot, superstar. It's crazy. His statistics are just nuts. I think Daddy Leagues is in line with the same. If we go in and we click a little further on Ezekiel Elliott here, if it'll let us. I'll give it a second or not. It's been moving a little slow for me. It could be just all of the... No, there we go. Trade value, early 1st round pick. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, wow. Look at this. So here's so 2021. So last season he had 1,926 yards and 31 touchdowns. And not only through 7 games, he has well over half of that for yards and well over half of that for touchdowns. So this guy is improving every season, which is scary. I still think the Bills and the Seahawks are going to be in the Super Bowl again. That's just what I'm thinking right now. But it looks like we've gone about 25 minutes here. So this has been Serp. This has been another podcast and episode of MBL Timeout, and we'll talk at you later.